Saw dudes, today I'm covering a Wishkeeper build for hunters. While some have already come out with their versions, I figured I'd try my hand at it. Now, a lot of what I noticed is that some builds lack safety and solely rely on suspensions provided by Wishkeeper. That's valid, but I thought solo players would appreciate build flexibility and safety measures. This build uses Threaded Spectre to take the heat off when things get hairy. Also, you can use 6 Coyote or StompEEs. 6 Coyote effectively grants 2 decoys. StompEEs grants 30% damage resistance on top of our Woven Mail and Resilience stat. Both options are fun and viable. Let's get started. Gameloop up first. Start combat by hitting precision shots with Wishkeeper. This will charge up a Snare Weaver arrow and provide suspensions later on. If you are having trouble with swarms, throw out a Threaded Spike or dodge to create a Threaded Spectre. Once an arrow is charged, send it into a crowd to stop its movement. Kill one of them to spawn a tangle and shoot it to create a Beyblade. Use grapple to get out of bad areas or Shackle Grenade to keep enemies at bay. Rinse and repeat. Silk Strike will be our close range damage option. While it can be used for ad clear, you're better off using it against bosses and champions. Marksman's Dodge will be used to reload our weapons. We won't be using Gambler's Dodge because it's repetitive and does not add much to our build's kit. Threaded Spike will be responsible for severing groups of adds and killing off weak red bars. Because it can apply a Strand debuff, it will be our primary way of creating tangles. The grenade, like the Titan build, is up to preference. Grapple is great and my personal choice. It allows for quick repositioning and works well with our Beyblade tangles. Shackle Grenade is nice, but it seems a bit redundant. If you want an additional safety measure, you can use it. The aspects for today are Threaded Spectre and Whirling Maelstrom. Threaded Spectre makes our dodge spawn a Strand decoy which lures enemies to attack it. When an enemy kills it or gets too close, it explodes, dealing damage and spawning 2 Threadlings. When will Loki get buff DE? Please. Whirling Maelstrom causes destroyed tingles to become unraveling Beyblades that seek targets for 12 seconds. They deal damage 10 times per second in a 2-meter radius, create unraveling threads on kill, and can be used as a grapple point for unlimited usage. The fragments for this build are Thread of Generation, Mind, Warding, and Wisdom. Generation grants grenade ability energy for each damage instance. Mind causes killing enemies affected by suspension to grant dodge energy based on enemy rank. Warding grants Woven Mail upon picking up an Orb of Power. And finally, Thread of Wisdom causes kills on suspended enemies to create an Orb of Power with a 10-second cooldown between activations. Time to go over the armor. The mod setup stays the same regardless of whether you use StompEEs or 6 Coyote. Starting with the helmet, I use Harmonic Siphon, Special Ammo Finder, and Font of Wisdom. With the gauntlets, I slotted Heavy-Handed, bolstering detonation, and focusing strike. On the chestplate was concussive dampener and 2 variable resistance mods. For the legs, I ran recuperation and 2 copies of Strand weapon surge. These 2 surge mods will change with our weapon loadout. Finally, on the cloak were bomber, reaper, and time dilation. The best stats to prioritize for this build are Resilience, Mobility, and Discipline. Resilience will drive up our survivability and make us harder to kill. Mobility is important for decreasing our dodge cooldown so that we have more Threaded Spectres. If you choose to run StompEEs, this is even more important since you won't have the second dodge charge provided by 6 Coyote. Discipline will lower your chosen grenade cooldown. The rest of your stat points can be dumped into Intellect. If you want Loki to be buffed, or get a rework, consider subscribing. It'll help me and Loki out a ton. Today's build has 2 weapon loadouts, but they are all just different flavors. Keep in mind that Wishkeeper is present in all of them, so I'll only explain how the weapon works once to keep things short and sweet. Weapon loadout 1 uses Wishkeeper, Path of Least Resistance, and Cataphract GL3. This weapon loadout is the same one from the last video and has double strand surges on our leg armor. Wishkeeper is the main weapon of this loadout and will be providing most of the suspensions. Precision hits and kills charge up Snare Weaver arrows, which require 6 charges to be activated. Hip firing at the maximum of 6 stacks shoots a Snare Weaver arrow and creates a trap that can suspend up to 6 enemies. The bow deals 50% increased damage against suspended enemies, and suspending enemies or damaging one grants 100 reload speed and a 0.7 times draw time multiplier for a short period. We're using this bow with Threaded Spectre for added safety, so it'll be pretty hard to die. If you're using this with 6 Coyote, you'll almost always have a spare charge for bad situations. With StompEEs, you can easily place Snare Weaver traps from high ground. Plus, you'll have a 30% bonus damage resistance buff while airborne, so you can tank many more shots. Path of Least Resistance, like in the last video, is only used for safety reasons. Shoot to Loot and Vultshot is the role that I have on me most of the time. Shoot to Loot allows us to pick up orbs and ammo, which is great for proccing Woven Mail via Thread of Warding. Vultshot is used as an ad clear perk, but is a bonus and not a focus of the weapon. If you want to use One for All instead, go for it. Cataphract GL3 is the go-to heavy weapon since it is so well rounded. I'll keep the explanation short because this has become a staple weapon and nobody wants to hear a rant for the 10th time in a row. The best role for DPS is Quick Launch, Spike Grenades, Field Prep, and Bait and Switch. Bait and Switch is the go-to perk for boss DPS, but I suggest using Explosive Light instead for general play. Weapon Loadout 2 uses Wishkeeper, Forbearance or Iterative Loop, and Hothead. For this loadout, you'll want to run double arc surges since it is focused on boss DPS. Since I covered Wishkeeper in the other loadout already, all you need to know is that it makes suspending traps and deals more damage to suspended enemies. Super easy to understand. Forbearance is my go-to choice for ad clear and a weapon I try not to recommend too much because of how tiring it can be to hear. The role that I use is quick launch, high velocity rounds, ambitious assassin, and chain reaction. This is the role for clearing content quickly and easily, and since we have other abilities and mods to back us up, it will be even better. Whirling Maelstrom unravels targets, making them another source of AoE damage, and double arc surge mods will make arc grenades hurt a lot more than usual. Plus, the setup with suspensions makes this a perfect pairing. This gun feels even better to use with StompEEs since you'll be able to line up waves much more easily. If you are more concerned with boss damage and champion melting, look no further than Iterative Loop. You can easily crack through tougher units, and if they don't die to one mag, you can Marksman's Dodge to unload another. I'm using Arrowhead Break, Liquid Coils, Lead from Gold, and Volt Shot. Because we are using Lead from Gold, we can use Heavy Ammo Finder on the helmet instead of a Special Ammo Finder. Hothead takes up our heavy slot as our heavy weapon of choice since it aligns with our mod setup. For this build in particular, I think the best role is Hard Launch, Impact Casing, Field Prep, and Explosive Light. This perk lineup is player friendly and can be used in damage rotations or on its own. You can't go wrong running this weapon. I don't want to make a full-fledged loadout section for the next two weapons since many of you will likely jump to them anyways. For those uninitiated, you can pair the Airmite and Apex Predator with double Solar Surge mods to get a great boss DPS combo. The Airmite should be crafted with Arrowhead Break, Accelerated Coils, Envious Assassin, and Controlled Burst. Apex can be crafted with Quick Launch, Impact Casing, Reconstruction, and Bait and Switch. For the best results, craft both weapons with enhanced perks and use a boss spec mod. I hope you guys enjoyed the Hunter version of the build. I have been wanting to mention StompEEs in the PvE build, but I haven't gotten around to it because of other circumstances. I'm happy that it's flexible and operable in all areas of the game. Wishkeeper is becoming a weapon I use regularly, but I know it's not for everyone. Just keep in mind that it will only get better with time as more upgrades come out. I appreciate you all. As always, thank you for watching, and happy farming.